We want to have a conversation about the weekend and politics now, into what's happening around in the country. Yes, there was a big rally at Jacaranda yesterday. That's what was said. There was a prayer, interdenominational prayer meeting in Narok yesterday. That's what was said, and this and that. And we are joined by Peter Muchendu, who is a governance expert. We are also expecting Gerald Bitok, who is also a political analyst, to join us for this conversation. Peter is here, Gerald not yet. CT.
Yes, please.
Welcome, Peter, with the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Namibia.
Uh-huh.
Envy and greed grow from the same stock.
Envy and greed grow from the same stock. Okay. Peter, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
It's an honor to be here.
Karibu sana.
I must say that you strike up to the top as one of the most candid shows that I really watch. I've been a very big fan of you for so many years, so I will count it as a big honor to be seated on this panel together with your panelists here.
We're honored to have you, Peter.
Thank you very much.
This proverb
Yes.
is from Namibia.
Yes.
And City again, what's the proverb? Honor and pride.
Let me just start again. There is a proverb with the very word you mentioned, but it's not this. That one in the future. But for today, okay, when you're on the right track, but for today, envy and greed grow from the same stock.
Envy and greed
Yes.
grow from the same stock.
That's for today.
And you know, when you become envious and greed at the same time, you form something called, you become gluttonous. That is, gluttonous is something more than just greed. It is just like you can't get enough. Regardless of what we do, you become gluttonous, you eat and eat. There is, I can't remember the name of that bird. So one of the unique bird that it is relieving its waste and eating at the same time, and that is the nature of that bird. When it is
doesn't stop eating.
It is still relieving what has been processed. And I think that's what you define as being gluttonous. And unfortunately, that is one of the sicknesses we have in this country. We have individuals who cannot get enough.
Really?
Yeah. And if you're talking to a theologian, those especially those who are Pentecostals, they will talk about that. There's a saying that they say that everybody is bothered by demons that of his age. That if you earn 1 million, you start getting bothered by demons of tripling that 1 million shillings. If you get 10 million, a new demon will come and tell you make it 100. And if you cannot tame those demons, they will make you greedy, and automatically you become gluttonous. You cannot get enough. Yes.
A lot has happened over the weekend in politics in the country. Now, if you look at the headlines, the papers today, no let up as Ruto Raila trade words. As that is happening, we are looking at KQ making some more losses this year. We're looking at ongoing drought situation in the country. We are looking at grade 7s reporting to school today. Not much clarity in terms of how they're going to be received, how they'll start learning, whether the labs will be ready, whether the teachers will be ready in time. We are looking at the high cost of living. Kenyans find ways to beat rising costs. That's the headline in the Daily Nation today. Contrary to President Ruto's campaign promise to bring down the cost of living, the price of common commodities has soared during the Kenya Kwanza's first 140 days in power, and we are looking at a huge rise in this. The budget policy statement has been taken to Parliament. It is indicating that the government wants to spend 3.6 trillion shillings in the next financial year. But what was also happening is that they're on a warpath. Raila is alleging that he was visited by Chebukati in the middle of the night before the election.
Well, I don't think that what was said in Jacaranda is anything new to this country. It's the same rhetoric that has been peddled for so many years. Well, if indeed Chebukati visited Raila together with the 3 commissioners they are talking about, they must have visited Raila before the announcement of the results to be able to solicit bride, as the Prime Minister alluded to yesterday. Then it begs the question, the Prime Minister having been the complainant at the Supreme Court during the contest of the presidential election, why didn't he swear an affidavit to this information? In any case, they took the IEBC to court claiming that the process was not okay. The process was had a lot of issues in it. And Chebukati being to Prime Minister's house, and I heard him clearly, I'd not hear long, him alluding to the fact that he has a video to that effect. Why wouldn't he table that particular evidence during the hearing of the Supreme Court, which was the right place to table that evidence? I mean, I would say that is hearsay, it is unfounded, it's uncalled for, because the Prime Minister and his running mate, Mother Karua, one of the things that they actually pride themselves in terms of the history of this country, it is the constitutionalism that they have brought to this country. And it is actually looking bad on them that they are now advocating for people to abscond from the very constitution we have given to ourselves. It is Kenya is not a banana republic, and we definitely don't want it to turn into some of the African countries we have seen. Now, whether the current president or the current government is there right free or not, it is based on the very constitution that we have given ourselves, the very constitution that has prescribed the threshold that one must meet to become the president. It is the same constitution that has prescribed the process under which Iveri Klatif is not satisfied should he follow, so that he can get the results and he can get the issues he has adjudicated on. And the constitution is very profound in articulating the process. And now, if you cannot follow that process, that is one. Number two, if you feel that process is not okay, there is a provision to amend the process so that you can provide a process that you feel it is okay. And neither of those things were being advocated for in Jacaranda. So
what was the message in Jacaranda? According to what you understood.
I think the message in Jacaranda is Raila Odinga trying to untwist government and become part of it, because shouting Ruto must go in what capacity? That is one. They are shouting he must go in what capacity? Number two, they are shouting he must go based on which law? So I think for me, it is the problem in this country, from both the sides of the political divide, that we have held our people captive and promising them heaven, so much so that they forget they are still living in this country. Because when you move hundreds of thousands of people into Jacaranda ground and tell them Ruto must go, and we are only 5 months, we have about, I think we have about 52 or 53 months remaining until the next election. You want to plunge this country into anarchy. You want to make sure this country is not governable. What do you expect to do if tomorrow the people of Kenya give you the mandate to govern, if you cannot promote economics? I mean, look at, I would prefer how the UK Parliament does its business. If the opposition MP feel aggrieved, they will hit the Prime Ministers during the Prime Minister's question, and they will use the constitutional means to force government out or force government to do its things. Unfortunately for this country, we believe that if we learn away from the constitutionalism and the statutes of law, it is the time we are able to get solutions for our country. And I don't think that is the right way. For a Prime Minister who prides himself in bringing revolution into this country, the revolution of constitutionalism, I would expect him to follow the constitution. Some of the things he has alluded to, he is actually attacking Parliament. And Parliament is actually operating on delegated authority from Article 1 of the Constitution, which has conferred that authority to the people. And the people can exercise it directly or indirectly through the elected leaders. Now, if Parliament passes something, whether it is healthy or not, the people we should be blaming is ourselves, because those are the leaders we have given to ourselves. Whether they have passed anything in Parliament through coercion, or through incentives, or through goodwill, the point is, everybody in that August House is operating on a delegated authority from the Kenyan people.
Okay. So now, taking all these things into consideration here, would you say that there's a negotiation that is happening by the time that we see folks speaking in the manner in which we see yesterday, the answers that were given by the president? Is there a negotiation taking place?
I don't think there is a negotiation. In fact, if you ask me, looking at who attended the meeting yesterday at Jacaranda, it is speaking volumes. One, you did not see a single governor from Azimio or Umoja going there. Why? If the governors are to deliver to their constituents in their respective counties, they will need to work with the national government. And no governor was willing to actually jeopardize that relationship between them and government. And we must, and I will say, and I will repeat this as the Honorable William Ruto said in Narok yesterday, we do not have citizens who are from the opposition. We do not have citizens who are from government. We are all members of this Republic of Kenya. And any government that is put there, one of the first role of the president is to become the symbol of national unity. And you can only become a symbol of national unity if the government you read is actually working for the entire nation, not for partially those who voted for you or otherwise. And I think that is the myth that we must demystify, that the opposition wants to galvanize this country. They want to balkanize this country so that it is not governable. Now, who is going to lose if this government fails to govern? It is not just Raila Odinga and his cohort. It is the entire republic that will lose. I, Muchendu, whether I voted for Raila Odinga or William Ruto, if government is not able to govern, I am the one who is going to lose. So I think for me, I do not see any negotiation going on behind the closed door. And if indeed there was negotiation, then they would have a very funny way of showing it. Because if the rhetorics we are hearing is anything to go by, it will tell you that everybody is going haywire. Nobody is coming to the center. If one is in the right, is going to the far right, and the other one is going to the far left. So I do not believe there is a negotiation going on.
City, do you believe there's a negotiation going on?
In the politics of this country, there's always a negotiation going on. Because what we hear, what we see, or what we are privy to is a very small piece of the entire puzzle. Most of what we hear even being said is a minuscule amount of what is actually known by the people who are, as the papers tell us, trading words, exchanging words, and what have you. Half the time, we are making decisions and conclusions half-cocked. We actually don't have all the information. And then also, there is what is happening and how we interpret it. See, I'd like to ask our guest, everything that's happening, if you give a little background and take it even to 2 weeks back, how do you galvanize all this information? And your interpretation is that Azimio is fomenting revolt. How do you arrive at that conclusion?
Well, I'll tell you something that is funny about this country. One, political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise. Politics in this country don't have ideologies. I mean, if you go to a place like the US or the UK, you will find it very hard for either the Labour Party or the Conservative Party forming a government of national unity or whatever you call it. Because when you look at this party in terms of finance, they believe in a certain set of beliefs that this is how you should adjudicate the economic matters. if it is politics, they believe this is how we should do politics. If you go to the US, you will find the red states are very passionate about their right to own guns. If you go to the blue states, that is led by the Democrats, they are very serious about providing health care for everybody in the US. When you come to Kenya and you are asked, what is it that ODM stands for? What is it that Jubilee stands for? What is it that UDA stands for? There is no specific set of belief that drives any political party in this country. And that is why it is always very hard to actually articulate or actually say what is going to happen next politically. Because, can you imagine the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga working together, bearing in mind the kind of polarized politics that we had in 2017? And therefore, this is my submission in terms of why I think that the Honorable Raila Odinga wants to make this country ungovernable. Already, this country has set its structure of governance. We have the president, the deputy president, and he has his cabinet put in place. Everybody now, he's probably right now organizing the state corporations and what have you. What is this that Raila Odinga is looking for? That is not provided for in the Constitution. Because I thought that now that they did not get what they wanted at the Supreme Court, they would have gone for a constitutional interpretation from the East Africa Court of Justice or whatever that would give them the legitimacy of arguing what they are arguing. Today, they tell you that they won by 2 million. Figures you cannot actually identify where. Even if you were to entertain that kind of thoughts in your mind, how would you actually identify such figures that are crazy? They have moved so far left with their arguments that you cannot believe. So this is what I believe, as you have said. The Honorable Raila Odinga is used to cause havoc in government and have his way in terms of his personal development, not the country development. Go back to 1997. After the election of 1997, the Honorable Raila Odinga decided to balkanize KANU, dissolved his NDP party, became the Secretary General, and forced people you could not otherwise believe would actually dare President Moi and leave the party, the likes of Judge Saitoti and company and Joseph Kamotho. People don't remember this. These are people who, you remember, Moi actually crafted Madhiwa constituency because of Joseph Kamotho.
Why are you giving Raila so much credit for that issue that happened in KANU? Are you saying that all these leaders were not capable of making decisions on their own to leave KANU?
But they were not. They were not. They were not. Trust you me, they were not. They would not have made it. Because I will tell you, and I keep saying and I say, anybody who approaches Raila Odinga in terms of thinking he's stupid is very mistaken. Raila is a very calculating politician. He is politician par excellence if you are to measure his quality with the politics of this nation. And therefore, the Honorable Raila Odinga knew what he was doing. He was the only person between the time we brought the multi-party back into our politics. Between then and 1997, it is only Raila Odinga who was able to break that constituency of President Moi for those 10 years that he was elected as the president after the multi-party came. This is Raila who was able to infiltrate KANU, force the KANU diehard, those people who claimed that they cannot move out of KANU, na KANU ni baba na mama. He's the guy who forced them out. This is the Raila who sees an opportunity of becoming a very serious player in politics in 2002. He knew if he did not join opposition and topple Moi, that would become probably the end of his politics. So it is Raila who is able to calculate and eat the herbal pie and say Kibaki tosha, knowing very well that if I bring this old man, I am going to sit on his head and he will not rule in peace. So Raila gets Kibaki. He first of all devised Kibaki in 2005 and forces a referendum that defeated government, something that was never heard of in this
just
country.
pause for a second. Remember,
Yes.
there was a small promise of him being made prime minister, and as soon as that Kibaki government came into power, they reneged on that particular promise. I mean, it wasn't as though the issue of the referendum came out of thin air.
And you think Raila did not know that the promise was not contained in law? Because when he was being promised the prime minister by the Honorable Mwai Kibaki and it's called the Pentagon. That is when he formed the Pentagon. You think Raila did not know that that promise was not contained in any set of law in this republic? He knew. But this is the guy who calculates politics, and he says, let's first of all jump this corner. When we get there, we will deal with it. And I will tell you, this guy, he's like, Raila, I would say in politics, is like that ego, that when the feathers are worn out, an eagle will go to the top of the mountain and stay there for so many days, pluck off the old feathers, and then grow some new and come back. That is, every time Raila wants to make a statement in this country, he will take a flight out. And then somehow he will force his followers to come and receive him in the airport as if he went to another planet. He was just in South Africa.
Believe all the people you see, like the ones you saw yesterday at the rally, you think those people are forced to go for those rallies?
Those people, they cannot. Most of the politicians that were there, they cannot exist in the vacuum.
No.
The people, not the
politicians.
Yes,
the crowd. You feel those people who are actually forced to go for that rally.
Let me tell you. There was a joke I saw on Twitter the other day about Kenya. There is no work, there is nothing. But one of the things you cannot take away out of Kenyan people is hope. They just need someone to shout hope and they will run. That is why you will see somebody going to a muganga who does not even 2 pair of shoes to go and be given how to become rich. And you ask yourself, how does a Kenyan go to a muganga to become rich, a muganga who cannot even own his own house? So, that is the kind of... So what I am saying is, the people you saw there, the thousands and thousands of the people
who have some kind of hope for some kind of
the
change.
Thousands, those people you saw there. It is true. The tough economic time has pushed this nation to almost an edge. And therefore, people just want to hear somebody who is bringing hope. People just want to hear somebody who is telling them about something new that is going to happen. And unfortunately, that is a curse in our country. The curse of being promised hope, because hope is what drives Kenyans from their home to Jacaranda, knowing very well after that particular day, they will not find ugari in their houses. They still have to go back and work for
look for it.
So I do not believe that the people that were Jacaranda were moved there because they want the best of this country. They are moved there because they have so much faith in our politicians who have taken advantage of them. Because I will tell you, that meeting was financed from somewhere. There were people who are financed to come and talk there. They will probably get fuel when they are coming out of the meeting. But what about all the minions of people that were in that rally? What will they eat in the evening? They will still go back and fight. If they found
there's no allowance,
there is no allowance. If they left their kids without uniform,
allowance,
they will still fight their kids without uniform at home. And I think for me that is something that we must call out in Kenya. That the political conmanship in this country has taken another level, and it is going to destroy our people by giving them false hope.